pilot is one of the most exciting and rewarding careers of all. There is no doubt on that. However, the steps until success require a lot of dedication, a lot of work and a lot of investments in money. However, the experiences that you will gain throughout your life will be priceless, and there is nothing compared to this in my opinion. In this short video, I will give you an overview of what are the steps to become an airline pilot. Someone who would like to become a pilot needs to obtain the pilot license and all the necessary ratings required for the type of operation that he wishes to conduct. Currently, there are three main pilot licenses: the private pilot license, the commercial pilot license, and the airline transport pilot license, ATPL. Now we will have a look at each one of these. The private pilot. A private pilot is a pilot who is allowed to fly for non-commercial purposes, only for entertainment. He is not allowed to receive any revenue for his flights. Most of the time performs solely basic visual flights. This is the first step on becoming a pilot. To start a PPL course, you will need to obtain an aviation medical exam of class 2, and the course consists of some basic theoretical knowledge examinations and 45 hours of flight instruction. The commercial pilot license, CPL. A CPL holder can exercise all the privileges of a PPL pilot. Act as pilot in command or co-pilot of any aeroplane engaged in operations other than commercial air transport or airlines. Act as pilot in command in commercial air transport of any single pilot aeroplane, or act as a co-pilot in commercial air transport. What this means is that you can be either the pilot in command or co-pilot in any aeroplane, for the exception of commercial air transport operations for an airline. You can be the pilot in command of an airline only for single pilot operations, only if there is one flight crew member. Otherwise, for multi-pilot operations, you can only be a co-pilot. To obtain a commercial pilot license, you need to complete a medical exam class 1, more complex theoretical examinations compared to the ones of the PPL, 150 to 200 hours of flight depending on the type of course you have performed, 100 hours as pilot in command, and 10 hours on instrument time. As you can see, much more hours are required compared to the ones for the private pilot license, PPL. Airline Transport Pilot License, ATPL. The ATPL permits the holder to exercise all the privileges of PPL and CPL holders, and additionally to act as pilot in command or co-pilot in any aeroplane engaged in commercial air transport operations for an airline. To obtain an ATPL, you need to have completed a medical exam class 1, just like for the CPL, and additionally you need to be already an MPL or CPL holder. You need to have completed a multi-engine instrument rating, a multi-crew cooperation course which lets you work in a multi-crew environment. You need to have 1,500 hours of flight, of which at least 500 in multi-pilot operations, 250 as pilot in command, 100 as night flight, and 75 of instrument time. Now that we have seen what are the three main pilot licenses, let's talk a bit on how you can achieve them. You can do it in two ways, either through an ATPL course, which is the traditional, or through an MPL course, which is a new method. We're going to start with the ATPL course. The ATPL course can be either modular, where the course is split in modules, and the student obtains his licenses and the necessary ratings for the ATPL one at a time, and may even take breaks between the modules, or integrated, where the student obtains all the licenses and the ratings together through a single course. requires the students full time, and he cannot take any big breaks in between each of the ratings. Both of them have advantages and disadvantages. The modular one, because of the breaks that you can take, is more cost efficient and you can work and study at the same time. However, the course may take longer, quite a few years in some cases. While the integrated one will give you all the necessary ratings and licenses within roughly 18 months. However, it requires your full time. Indeed, I remember in my ATPL course I had lessons on the 26th of December. Something important is that at the end of the ATPL course you will not have yet an ATPL license. You will have the theoretical knowledge and all the necessary ratings. However, you will not have all the flying hours necessary for the license. 1500 are a lot of hours and it will take you quite a few years to obtain them. You will have what is called an ATPL frozen. With an ATPL frozen, you are able to work as a co-pilot in any airline and gain hours and experiences. Once you have reached the required hours, you will unfroze your license and hold your full ATPL license. The second method to obtain an ATPL license is through an MPL course. MPL stands for multi-pilot license and it's a relatively new method of becoming an airline pilot. As the name implies, this course is much more focused in multi-pilot airplanes and in airline operations. Indeed, most of the training on single pilot airplanes is replaced now with full flight simulators, and it's done on a multi-pilot environment. This is very well seen from an airline view. Indeed, many airlines have now started their own MPL courses where the contract is made with the airline and you will already familiarize with aircraft you will work on much sooner than you would on an ATPL course. As for ATPL frozen holders, you will unlock your full ATPL upon reaching the required flight hours. Some of the advantages of the MPL course are that you will familiarize with the airline and with the airplane you will work much sooner than you would on an ATPL course. If the contract is with the airline, you will have a secure job at the end of the course, and very often they have a type rating included. However, you will have much less actual flying hours. Most of the training is done on a simulator. It's only a multi-crew license. If you wish to fly on a single pilot airplane, you will need additional training, and as being a very new license, some regulations are still not fully implemented. Now that we have seen what are the licenses and the ways you can achieve them, it's time to choose your flight school. The first question you need to ask yourself is, where do you want to be based? Either in Europe, in the United States, or in another country. This is very important because if you want to be based in Europe, you will need an EASA license. If you want to work in the United States, you will need an FAA license. And if you want to work in another country, most of the time you will need an ICAO license, except in some cases, an international license. If you just obtained an EASA license and then you decide to work in the United States, you will need to have to convert your license to an FAA one, and it will cost you money, more time, and you will need to take more examinations. So it's very important that you choose where do you want to be based from the beginning, before you choose the flight school. Now just go online and search for a flight school near your area or where you want to take the training. There are plenty of them. These are some of the aspects that you should check before applying for one: the number of aircraft, the number of instructors, the duration of the course, eventual airline partners which will help you to find a job afterwards, which licenses they give, ATPL, MPL, EASA, FAA, ICAO, and the quality of the training. Not all of this information is given on the website, so what you should do is to go on Facebook and or Instagram, on the page of the school that you have seen, and ask some of the students whether they would recommend the school or not. The requirements before application. To start an ATPL course, you will need to be at least 18 years old. You will need to possess a high school diploma. You need to be proficient in English. This is very important. You need to be proficient in mathematics and physics, at least the basic concepts, and at least some basic knowledge about airplanes. Only high school diploma is necessary, and usually there is not requirement for any minimum average score. You do not need masters or university degrees. However, this may give you some useful knowledge before applying for the flight school, and they may increase your chances for a job application after the course. After you have achieved your desired license, there is one last course that you need to undertake, the type rating. The type rating is a course focused on a specific airplane, the one used by the airline for the job that you have applied for. It is necessary to ensure that you know every single detail and every procedure about the aircraft you will be working on before actually carrying passengers on board. You will perform this only after employment. Your pilot's license is valid for life. However, the ratings and the medical certificates that you need to exercise it have a validity period, after which you need to perform a check exam, which will ensure you are still proficient on the determined airplane and type of operations, and that you're fit to fly in case of a medical revalidation. All ratings are valid for 1 year, for the exception of the single pilot, single engine class rating, which is valid for 2 years. A Class 1 medical certificate is valid for 1 year and a Class 2 medical certificate for 5 years for the PPL. However, above 40 years old, you will need to undertake the medical exam more often. So, we have seen that there is a lot to go. But is all this effort worth it? Well, for the small experience that I have, I've noticed that this is something unique and that it makes you see the world on a totally different perspective. You learn something new every day, and it requires a lot of dedication, and this will become one of the main parts of your life. Secondly, at the moment there is a huge shortage of pilots. There is a lot of demand at the moment from the airlines. You will find a job very quickly after you achieve your license. So in my opinion, if you have what it takes, then yes, it's definitely worth it. Thank you very much for watching and subscribe for more.